All right, thank you for joining us today, and it's a pleasure to have you back on our YouTube South Trail channel. As you see, I've got a very special guest with me today. Bob Sutton stopped in to talk about model railroading, and well, I railroaded him into a YouTube interview. So I appreciate him being here. Again, we're continuing our series talking about manhood. In this particular lesson, we're going to talk about boys becoming men. And a lot of different cultures have different things that make boys into men, supposedly. It's their transition into manhood. There's bar mitzvahs and there's hunting excursions and all kinds of different things that history has taught us that cultures do to bring their young boys into young men. Now, truthfully, boys all mature at different ages, and we even see Christ being born and growing up and maturing, and at the age of 12, him in the temple and dealing with that. And we're able to see Christ grow up. So certainly we see boys about that age going through puberty and different things, and every boy will mature a little differently. But Bob has had good experience with raising boys. He's done a wonderful job, and he knows that. Now, every house is going to be different. Every boy is going to be different. But Bob, in your experience in raising boys, I know it was a fun time.
Indeed.
And I know it's not easy. My dad's talked to me before about being a father and the challenges and the difficulties. And society has changed in the last several years. Our culture is trying to tell us men need to be something else. But the scripture tells us what men should be and how we should be. And well, talk to us about raising boys. What are some of your suggestions in doing so?
Well, you need to be a part of their life. You need to enjoy what they enjoy, teach them, be the example that they need to guide them on into manhood.
Oh, that's a big deal, being the example. And it's kind of part of what we're working on this lesson, and being an example to our young boys. And I noticed even my school bus driving days that a lot of the young boys, and even young girls for that matter, that didn't have fathers in their homes, it was a challenge. They were a challenge. They lots of times had behavior issues and not having that father there. Me raising boys myself, it's quite a challenge. Can't always be their buddy, but even discipline. What do you think about your children when they misbehave, and how'd you handle that sometimes?
Well, I think things have changed dramatically in this day and age, but in our day, the discipline was depending on what the problem
That's right.
caused it to be. But I think there were so many different things to guide them in sports, to be a part of it. And both of my boys went through scouting.
Yes.
And that was so helpful to teach them crafts, to teach them all kinds of ways of life. They learned to fire a gun, believe it or not. And discipline was totally different in those days. And I'm sorry to say I don't see the discipline. And because so many children are fatherless,
Yeah.
they're being raised by a single parent, and it's very difficult. And quite frankly, it's not really fair to the kids, and it does show. It does show.
It does show, doesn't it? We're seeing that in the successive generations that it's showing, and
Exactly.
even with the lack of respect for authority, we're seeing that, and that is taught at home. And tell you, I was taught to respect authority, and if I didn't, I got a lesson taught to me at the house. So I think we can understand that.
Even from my grandparents, I remember when you're addressing an elder person, regardless, it may be your brother or whatever, it doesn't hurt you to say, yes, sir, or no, sir, or yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am.
Yes.
And I don't hear that too much anymore.
Yeah. If you get a response at all, it's yep, nope, or yeah, no. You're exactly right. I was taught the same way, and that society is definitely losing that grip. As a matter of fact, we see lots of young boys today that's their parents place them up on a pedestal.
Exactly.
And I can tell you one thing: when I felt like I was up on the throne, my mom would tell me she was going to knock me off of it. So, but we do see children being placed up on a throne, and it's really changed our own culture.
Well, it's changed it from the lack of parenting, and it's also changed from the lack of schools and their ability, and everybody wants to sue everybody.
You're right.
You scolded my son for something he didn't do. Well, he obviously did do something.
That's right.
When I was naughty in school and I got reprimanded at school, usually by the time I got home, I got reprimanded again.
I got the same thing, Bob.
And it was a way of life, and I don't see it happening today. I don't believe in physical violence to your children, but
No.
I was punished, and there were various ways depending on what the crime was that I committed. There were various ways. So
You're right. You're right. Well, Bob, I tell you, we're going to finish with maybe one more little quick topic here. Bringing up children in the church. You know, that's we almost see a trend that's not happening. Of course, that's why I'm here to try to help with that. But bringing our children to church and consistently, and there's a lot of suggestions we can't cover in just a few minutes. But what would be your advice for raising young men in the church today?
well, the church is so important, and it's so important for them to learn at a young age, because you get to be an age like mine, and if you missed it, you missed it. And it's something you don't want to miss. When you talk to people, again, at my age, and this was taught to me from the time I was very young, we all are shooting for a home with God in heaven. And the best place to start is when you're young. The retention that you have when you're young is much better than what your retention is as an adult. And it gets worse as I get older. But anyway, it's an absolute must. It's the way it needs to be.
Bob, I appreciate that, and you know, it's a struggle for young families today, and society has changed so much. It's just a challenge, and
Indeed.
And but I appreciate your advice, and I know that you've been there and done that. So, you know, something even us young dads need to try to pursue is to talk to leaders such as yourself, and know that you've been there and had success with that, and to help us out with that. I appreciate you joining me today, Bob. You got anything else
I just thank you for the appreciation and the pleasure to be here.
Bob, it's a pleasure to have you here at South Trail and to have you in our lives. And I know this time right now is difficult for you and for all of us, and we'll continue to keep each other in our prayers. Thank you for joining us today, and if you need anything, please let us here at South Trail know. We'll be happy to assist you any way we can. Thank you, Bob, for joining me, and I'm Craig Embry with South Trail Church of Christ.